Playoff week 1. Let's get into it.
If you are one of the lucky few that has made the playoffs, we've got information coming right at you, injury updates, and who you should be looking to pick up for your playoff run.
Let's go.
And welcome back to Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono.
And I'm your host, Chris. And we are in the first week of the playoffs. Congratulations, Jono, for making the playoffs. I did not. This was a rough year in terms of regular league play. But in best ball, we got some teams moving on here. Both me and you.
I know. Yeah, I'm excited about the best ball.
But redraft league, it's playoff week. All right.
Big time
playoff week. A lot of good, interesting matchups. The buys are over. Everyone should be at their full lineups. But some big injury news before we get rolling, and it's going to affect a lot of these teams. I mean, the teams that are rolling right now. But there are some teams that had key players. Now you're going to be missing pieces for the first round of the playoffs, or you potentially are going to have worse pieces for that.
Even if these pieces aren't, they're indirectly affecting your pieces. So, for example, the first one here is Derek Carr. Derek Carr, broken hand. He is going to miss some time. They're saying they're not putting him on IR. But, I mean, does he come back week 18, hopefully?
Maybe they make the playoffs?
Yeah, maybe.
It's a winnable division.
But at the end of the day, that can affect Kamara. Pretty much their only weapon at this point.
Well, I think, between Taysom Hill and now Carr injured, I think it does affect Kamara. But I also think because of the volume that's going to go there's not really a lot of receivers. I think MVS now, rest of season, is not going to be really worth it.
Yeah, not relevant to me either at that point.
I think Juwan Jennings is an upgrade.
He was already to me, too.
Yeah,
and he had the touchdowns.
And Kamara, I think, is an upgrade. I think
I don't know.
Kendre Miller.
I downgrade Kamara because Kendre Miller's presence, but also this team, anybody who faces them only has to protect against a run at this point.
Okay, or Kamara out of the backfield. Remember, he does catch 12 balls a game.
Regardless, okay, but if his snap count goes down to, maybe he doesn't catch 12 balls a game.
I mean, I think
I just think it
Derek Carr
downgrades
injury.
him a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had Justin Herbert get hurt in this game.
Did come back and play.
Come back and play, but definitely something to keep an eye on with his injury. A lot of viable players there on that offense going into the playoffs, especially another guy on that team that definitely need to keep your eye out for on this week is Ladd McConkey. So some still injury news to keep up with the Chargers as a whole, but with those two players there that have been fantasy relevant, going into the first week of the playoffs, if they got you there.
Yeah, I think Herbert will play. He played injured all last year. He plays injured his whole career unless he is literally can't walk. He limped off the field at the end of the day, but he's tough as nails. Aiden O'Connell, another quarterback, went down. Weird injury. You didn't see any real bad bend of his knee or break of a leg or anything, but he got air casted and carted off the field. Turns out it's a bone bruise. All the signs are pointing to that there's a chance he's going to try and play week 15. We'll see if that happens. Otherwise, they have Desmond Ridder there, so you're downgrading a lot of your Raiders players, except for maybe Sincere McCormick if you have Desmond Ridder at center.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it right before we started filming, and I'll go on a little rant here for the Raiders and the tight end position. If you're a Brock Bowers owner, if Desmond Ridder is the starter, do you trust him there? And Desmond Ridder as a whole is a downgrade for this offense. And I think every player on this team, I think this is not a very good offense with him at quarterback, and they don't have any explosive pieces that they're feeding the ball to. And a lot of Brock Bowers, his big playability is like the mid-range target. In Desmond Ridder's previous game with the Raiders that he came in earlier this season in Week 9, it was 5 drives that he had, 3 targets, 2 receptions, had the touchdown with 41 seconds left in the game.
2 Bowers,
for Bowers, that is. But yeah, I don't. You might want to pick up a backup tight end if Bowers has gotten you this far. Based on this news.
Yeah, see, they were facing the Bengals, so it was an offense that they could be passed on, or defense that could be passed on, but Bengals were also torching them at that point too. Talk about Isaac Orendo leaving with a foot sprain, it looks like. Unlikely to probably play this next game, so we'll talk about pickups for people who have him. We're on to running back number 5. Jonathan Brooks retore his ACL.
Yeah, that's a
it's
bummer
unfortunate. I feel bad.
Remember the conversations me and you had before the season where we both said it'd be better off if the Panthers held him out the entire season?
Carolina. We said it here multiple times.
Just saying.
Bucky Irving was put in the game, already injured going into the game, ended up playing, hurting his back. They said it was precautionary, so we'll see. Keep an eye on the practice reports because they said precautionary. They held him out because they were up, and White was also running the ball well. But it wasn't good that he was injured going into it. It wasn't good that he injured coming out of it either. So
to be honest with you, it's a matter of who's going to be playing at running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because whoever it is, they've been performing.
Yeah.
Whether it's Rashad White, Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving, the running backs there have been overperforming all season long, which is why this offense is the way it is. So if Bucky Irving's hurt, I mean, definitely fire up Rashad White, but keep an eye on Bucky Irving. Even though it was precautionary, it didn't look like he got banged up too bad. But they were up in that game, and Rashad White was running so effectively, they didn't have a reason to put him back in.
Yeah, and then George Pickens, grade 2 hamstring strain here. That's one to watch out for because he did not play. He was a game-time decision this past week. With grade 2, there's a likely chance he doesn't play again this week, and he could miss a third week. And so if this is somebody who's helped you out get to the playoffs, if you've made trades and acquired him, it's unfortunate. So hopefully you hinge your bets. But we got some players here that you can go ahead and look into. But before we get into our waiver pickups, going into playoff round 1, the quarterfinals, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button so you get all our drops leading up through the playoffs and afterwards because we had a great time doing best ball drafts this preseason. We're going to be watching our best ball teams, and we're going to bring a lot more content like that to you guys in the future as well.
Oh, yeah, heck yeah. It's on like Donkey Kong in the offseason. I mean, lots and lots of content coming for, especially the early season best ball stuff. But finishing this season up, it's don't forget, drop a comment if you have any questions on if you should pick up or roster management.
Starts and sits.
Yeah, roster management at this point is huge. So if you're not in keeper leagues, if you're not in dynasty leagues, if you're in redraft, shed the dead weight on your team. If you have any advice or any questions like that, drop a comment.
I mean, we were just talking about a second ago that I'm in a predicament, not much of one, but I'm in one. I mean, I have Malik Neighbors as my wide receiver 2 here, and I'm probably going to bench him for Jordan Addison. I'm going to play the hot hand, Monday night game in Minnesota with more touchdown potential than Malik Neighbors has on a week-to-week basis. And if you have some tough to start sit questions and decisions, we'll be blunt and straightforward with you.
You might not like it.
Yeah, but it's the advice we're going to give you. Let's talk about quarterback streamers because we talked about injuries possibly to Herbert, not to say he's your starter there, or Carr or O'Connell, but you may have a bad matchup for your starting quarterback, and you may not like the opportunities. And you got to look at the likes of someone like Bo Nix, who goes against Indy this week. Bryce Young.
Great matchup.
We like Bryce Young the way he's been playing football. He played a very difficult Eagles defense and played well. He's got Dallas, Arizona, then Tampa Bay for the full playoff scope. He could be a good stashable guy because even somebody like Jared Goff, if you've been pushing through with Goff on week to week, has a terrible playoff schedule and everybody's out to get the Lions on top of that. And then the other big one is Jameis Winston.
I want to talk about Bryce really quickly. There's just, I don't know, have you been watching the Carolina games really intently?
Yep.
He looks like he's having fun out there.
Well, it's not even
the mood of the entire team has kind of changed in the last 2 weeks of them playing, and they've been losing, which is it's great to see him going out there and playing like that when they're still losing football games. The connection he has with Adam Thielen, they can be league winners.
It's always been there.
They can be league winners this year.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is you're seeing him make the proper reads. And he's more accurate with the football. And we know that takes time. It's tough when you throw a guy, especially his size and stature, into the lion's den of the NFL.
I think what's improved the most about him is his movement within the pocket and getting outside the pocket and able to extend plays just a little bit while still maintaining his eyes downfield. He's not taking those sacks anymore. He's not just stepping back and expecting his offensive line to hold up. He's creating his own protection right now, which I think is a huge improvement for him. It's giving him a lot more space. His receivers are getting open, and they're making plays for him too. I like Bryce for the rest of the season. And if you're in a questionable matchup or you had just streaming quarterback all year long, this is a guy you should hold on to as a stable play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he also has a litany of receivers that are now getting comfortable with the team. You don't have Deontay Johnson from earlier in the season kind of just being a blemish in the wide receiver room. You now have Leggett, who's kind of getting his feet underneath him finally in the NFL. Adam Thielen coming back, so Leggett doesn't have to be the number one. All that helps. And Ja'Tavion Sanders came back. He didn't play a ton. He had one target, but just having presence like that on the field makes a difference for him.
Yeah. Another guy, we talked about Jameis Winston.
Kansas City Chiefs this week.
And I know you probably don't love the matchup, but there's something about Jameis Winston with the magic that he can go into games with. He's ridiculous.
He is the Brett Favre. He is the new Brett Favre.
Yeah.
The guy will just throw it deep downfield. Doesn't care if he throws a pick. He'll come back and do the same thing the next drive and throw a touchdown.
Yeah, another league-winning potential is him and Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy's been playing great football with him. And they're in a matchup where Kansas City's defense has been good, but I think Jameis, just because he's Jameis, has a way about him. Like, he can go – Cleveland can win this game, and he can put up, 30-plus fantasy points in
He
this
can
game.
put up 30-plus fantasy points and lose the game.
Yeah.
Just like Joe Burrow's been doing anyway.
Yeah.
Geno Smith is somebody you brought up. I want you to get a chance to talk about him because he's got a tough matchup against Green Bay, but you like this here.
Yeah, I think it's not the best matchup for Geno, but both these teams I think is a must-win game for both of them. Green Bay needs to win. They need to keep pace in this division. They need to win, not just for a wild card spot, but to try to win the division or seed higher. On the other side, Seattle needs to win because they're in the same position. They're in the driver's seat right now with the division lead.
With the Rams breathing down their neck.
The Rams are breathing down their throat.
Arizona's not out of it.
And neither is San Francisco.
Yeah.
They got three teams breathing down their throat. They need to win. And they have explosive players on their team. JSN, DK Metcalf, Charbonnet now on the week that he's had. If
Kenny McIntosh, the backup to Charbonnet, looked pretty good at times. He ex-Georgia guy.
They have weapons.
Represent Athens.
And do I love Geno Smith? Do I feel super comfortable playing him in here? No, but I think that the game has upside to it. This game can go off.
Yeah, he's running this offense well.
Yeah,
and playing so. I mean, we saw what happened last week with the Lions. I mean, the Lions against a good defense were still able to get 3 touchdowns through the air. Josh Jacobs is getting more receptions at the backfield too. That helps. And you take away one of those situations where, the running game gets stifled by this Green Bay D, who's usually gets torn apart by that. Like, the Lions are very good offense, but Seattle's not a bad offense either. And I think they can make the adjustments and make things work, especially with the receivers they have. And they're going to challenge these D-backs.
Yeah, I just think there's certain games, and we called it last week with Buffalo and the Rams game that, it was the highest one on the slate. And I said I still think it's going to go over.
Yeah.
This is another game with, I think, Seattle and Green Bay that I think can go over because both these teams are in situations where they're in like the seeding hunt. It's 2 potential playoff bound teams in the seeding hunt.
Yeah.
So they're going to go at each other, and you can see some heavy offense in this game. And would I rather want him than another guy on this list is Drake May? Well,
we'll talk about him in a second. We'll go into the detail in the games for sure on later this week.
Right.
But Drake May, like you just aforementioned, is playing Arizona. If you're in a deeper league, I like it as a play. He's been looking comfortable. They finally have a bye week, so they have 2 weeks to prepare for this game, too, on top of that, against a struggling Arizona team. Struggling offensively, for sure. And defense, they've been playing pretty good D, but when you're struggling offensively, it's tough to play good defense consistently through a game. And we saw they got picked apart at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some big running back additions here. And I'll let you talk about your Jets guy first.
Well, Isaiah Davis is a guy I think, with the Jets officially out of the playoffs, there's a big question that they have is, do they bring Brees back or not? If Brees has a nagging injury that they just want to see what else they have there, you sit Brees. And how much limited playing time is he going to have? Mm-hmm. So if Brees doesn't go again this week, or if Brees misses any time in the next 3 weeks because of it, he's dealing with an injury, I think Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen are both guys you should own. I think this offense is getting better. I don't think this football team is better, but I think this offense is getting better, and they're utilizing the running back position. I think Isaiah Davis looked really good running the football. He didn't have explosive numbers, but especially in a PPR setting, he was involved in the receiving game, and this is now 2 straight weeks where he scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I do like him as a potential. I think if it's him or Braylon Allen, they're both flex plays, but I think that there's still viability if Brees doesn't go.
Yeah, if you're a
Brees
owner and you don't already own Braylon Allen, go pay for Isaiah Davis in case Brees doesn't go, because then he's a flexible play for you if you don't have a better option at running back.
Right.
Patrick Taylor's another one. 49ers have moved on to their fifth running back now.
Fifth running back in the season.
With Garendo going out with the sprained foot. Unlikely with a sprained foot for a running back to come back this quick, because they play on Thursday night against the Rams.
Yeah.
So Patrick Taylor is going to be the go-to guy there. I don't know listen, these running backs seem to have success when they come off the bench for the 49ers because there's a Shanahan offense. But at some point, when you get down the depth chart in running backs, it's not going to work like it did from the running back before.
I just think that the upside is down. Like, you're still going to have a good floor. So I think if you don't have an option, like if you were a guy that was relying on Jordan Mason, if you were a guy that then went and picked up Isaiah Garendo, if you're that guy, go and get Patrick Taylor. He's going to give you the floor.
Yeah. But what's your floor? 60 yards, 70 yards?
And a touchdown? Yeah.
If a touchdown?
It's not if a touchdown. This offense is good.
Yeah.
This offense is good, so they're going to be in a scoring position. So do you not like the running back? The only running back? Who else do you have?
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Unless they run Debo at running back, who else do they have?
They've been doing.
They have. He's going to get more touches.
Can't go anywhere.
He's going to get more touches. It's not the prettiest thing, and I don't think you're going to see the 70-yard breakoff runs like Jordan Mason did, like Chris McCaffrey
But this
did.
is also against the Rams, who just shut down Buffalo's running offense.
They did.
And minus the actual scrambles by Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Take that out. They stopped James Cook. They stopped any of the other rushers there.
They did. This is a different offense.
Don't get me wrong. Yes. But Puka and Cooper Kupp flourished. This may be another game where, Shanahan may have to look to the air game, and we may see another big game from the tight end position.
Yeah, I mean, they have taken out Cooper Kupp and Puka before out of games.
I'm not talking about that game. I'm talking about the Niners.
I'm talking about the Niners too. The running back, there's upside there because there's volume there. Is it the best matchup? No, but this offense is good enough, and this is a whole thing about the San Francisco offense in general. Is it doesn't matter what running back is there. It doesn't matter the name.
They're a pawn on the board.
They're a piece that they use to run that offense, and they're going to be utilized 20 to 25 times a game. So with an offense that's that good, that has that many pieces around it, they're going to throw up points. And
as long as they can stop that defense or stop the other offense.
Yeah.
But anyway, Patrick Taylor, we like him. Sean Tucker's another one we just talked about. Keep an eye on Bucky Irving. He will be the next guy in with Rachaad White. They may also just give Rachaad White everything. So this is a really This is tough one to measure, but again,
this goes into trimming your fat, right? We talked about it earlier in the episode. It's you have an opportunity now. This is win or go home for the rest of the season.
Correct.
So if you have fat on your team, a second defense or a second tight end that you're not going to stream, or you have a flex player that you're holding on to that has potential, trim that player. If you have Bucky Irving, go and pick up Sean Tucker, because now you have a viable option there if he doesn't go. If he does go, if Bucky Irving does play, then you have Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
And you weren't going to play anyone else there either.
Yeah, this is one of the situations we talked about before. It's you got to hinge your bets with these running backs. It's tough. You can't measure that up with a wide receiver, but you can measure it up who's up next with the running back position. Yep. We talked about Blake Corum. We talked about Ray Davis. We talked about Braylon Allen earlier, and all these backups that are coming into the playoff time. If your starter's not going, you don't want that other backup on somebody else's bench. Yep. Don't have three defenses because I've got it lined up. Week 15 is going to be this team. Then week 6, because that's doing you nothing if you don't win 15. Plain and simple. Sincere McCormick, the last running back on this list. We mentioned him last week. We don't have to go into detail. He showed up big again this week here in a tough matchup where this team was just being beaten up by Tampa Bay. He was able to amass over 70 yards on the ground and just look good doing it too.
Yeah, he looked good doing it and had a big 35-yard run in that game. He got stuffed a couple times at the goal line. He could have had a more productive day, but Tampa Bay has a very good...
He still plays for the Raiders.
He still plays for the Raiders. Now, again... I don't like this. I don't like everyone for the Raiders, if Ritter's playing, has a down arrow.
Correct.
On them, except for Sincere McCormick, where the usage is going to be there. And actually, I can make the argument for Amir Abdullah as well.
Yeah.
especially in a PPR format. If Desmond Ritter's playing, get Amir Abdullah because he's probably going to get 10 targets. It's going to be Alvin Kamara time. He's going to get 12 targets. I mean, it's going to happen if he is there because there's no other. They're not going to have time.
Check down city.
It's going to be check down city.
Let's talk about some wide receivers before we finish up with our tight ends and defenses. But wide receiver wise, we saw Quentin Johnson get the game tying touchdown in last night's game.
Go ahead touchdown.
Yeah, was it go ahead? I thought it was game tying.
It was a go ahead touchdown, and then they were up by 2 and they lost by 1.
Yeah, you may be right. Either way, he is a target, and if there's a chance that Ladd McConkey doesn't go again, QJ looked to be the guy that was making the big plays. I know they tried for Palmer very hard, and Palmer just wasn't catching the ball. He didn't look good doing it. He had one big reception.
He ended up being the receiving leader on the night.
Due to the volume that was going his way.
Yeah.
But when it came down to the red zone, and we've seen this earlier in the season, red zone threat is QJ. He's finding the little pockets in the zone coverage and the jump balls at times. So he's a flyer you could throw in there for if you're a Ladd McConkey owner, if he seems to be open, because a lot of people wanted to drop him after his drops. Chris brought this up last week, and I'm going to have him bring it up again, but Michael Wilson for the Arizona Cardinals.
Michael Wilson. Come on, guys. Watch a game. Watch a game tape. When Kyler Murray feels like he's in trouble in this past game, and this is what we said, Marvin Harrison is still a guy there, but Marvin Harrison is a possession receiver. Marvin Harrison is going to have games, but he's not this true alpha number one like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like Justin Jefferson, like these guys that are going to target, get 14 targets a game. He's not that. And so the other targets are going to Trey McBride. Mm-hmm. And the other safety valve over the last 3 weeks has been Michael Wilson.
Yep.
And what they do on the very first drive?
Touchdown to Michael Wilson.
41-yard touchdown to Michael Wilson. He's just I'm saying this because he's becoming a bigger factor in this offense, and it's something that should be going to be noticed.
Well, this is also an offense that struggled to run the ball as of recent too, as well at times, and because of that, they're going to have to throw the ball more often than they want to.
Yeah. And Michael Wilson has been a safety valve for Kyler Murray, especially on the bigger play, and now we have back-to-back weeks of efficient play. We had the touchdown early last week. This team should be playing from behind in most games. So,
Trey McBride's getting an average of like 13 targets a game for the past 3 weeks. He still does not have a receiving touchdown on the season.
They tried so hard.
They're going to keep trying so hard. And he should have had that too, by the way.
I know.
But at the end of the day, Michael Wilson is getting the touchdowns. He is getting the targets.
Just need 2 more yards.
I know. That was a tough prop bet.
The last one is Michael Williams. This
is speculative, too, based on the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think there are 2 guys. I think Van Jefferson and Mike Williams both have opportunities to really step up. And I think they're right there even. If you want to make the argument for Van Jefferson, I'm right there with you. Like I can make that argument too. My gut is to go with Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams, they brought him in, they traded to have kind of this bigger down the field target. I think his style of play as a receiver matches really well with how Russell Wilson throws the football, which is why we both knew it that Pickens, once Russ took over, was going to go off.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think Mike Williams has an opportunity to have more of that target share, more of that route share with Pickens being down. So I like Mike Williams a little bit over Van Jefferson, but if both are available and you are a Pickens owner, both of them could be viable options as a flex play.
Now, let's move over to tight end spot here. Tight end's tough because there isn't a lot of action going on in the tight ends. We're gone backwards a couple years back where you have a couple guys really hot and heavy at the tight end spot, and then everybody's kind of sitting around the same, and it's mediocre, and you're hoping for a touchdown. And we're talking Bowers and Kittle being the top 2, and then everybody else you're hoping for the touchdown. They don't get it.
Jonnu's number 3.
Yeah, literally, that last drive of the game saved his entire fantasy day. But yeah,
you mean not the last drive of the day? You mean the first drive of overtime when he didn't have a reception through regulation?
Correct. The last drive of the day, same thing.
3 targets,
2 screen passes. By the way,
60 yards and a touchdown.
2 of them were screen passes. All I'll say is
I hate the Jets.
I will say at the end of the day, we were spot on with the Jonnu, or I was at least spot on with the Jonnu when I said this team is going to change up the way they're going and they're going to move away from him and go towards their 2 big guys.
and then when push came to shove.
Yeah, well, it was open at that point. But I'm just saying 14, what was it, 10 or 11 targets or 12 targets to Waddle, and then on the other end it was another 12 or 13 targets to Tyreek, and nothing during regulation to Jonnu.
Also, remember, they played the Jets.
You say that, but
Miami the Jets haven't beaten Miami.
Let's move on. We're talking about tight ends. Again, mediocre throughout the rest of it. Pat Freiermuth is somebody who's been coming on as of late, has a couple games with touchdowns as of recent.
Well, especially with Pickens down.
Exactly. I like that too.
He's going to be a great target there. If these are the three, and notice the trend there. Freiermuth, Williams, Van Jefferson, the bigger body receivers. I think they're going to pair really well with Russ. Especially if Pickens is down.
Well, it's a tough game against Philly coming up here. So because of that tough game against Philly, it's going to be a tough game to run on. I think they're going to end up throwing the ball a lot here, and Russ is going to be pressured as much as the Philly could pressure him, and he's going to get the ball out of his hands quick.
I think people are forgetting the record that's in front of the Pittsburgh's logo.
I'm not forgetting that. I think people are also forgetting that.
Well, I think when you're talking about like these tough matchups, it's like they're the tough matchup.
They are for a team like the Eagles who's trying not to lose a game. Yeah. But I'm still saying defensively, it's a tough matchup for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think that they have pieces that play really well against them. I think this is a good game.
Jake Ferguson coming back off concussion. I know Schoonmaker had pretty good couple games for Dallas here. We'll see. I don't know if he's playing tonight. I think he is available to play tonight, so we'll see what happens in the Monday night game. But he's somebody, if he's available, if you haven't already picked him up, grab him as an option depending upon how he does tonight in this Monday night game, because he's a good tight end. He's a great tight end. He beat out Schoonmaker, who was a second-round pick for the Cowboys for the starting job last year and this year. So last one would be Dalton Schultz, somebody who's been popping up here. He's been more consistent than Tank Dell has been for this offense through the air.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from the tight end position, we've seen either Cade Stover or Dalton Schultz scoring 3 out of the last 4 games.
Both of them involved heavily.
Yep. So I like the tight end position for this Texans offense. It's got to be someone other than Nico, and no one else is stepping up really right now.
Yeah. In terms of streamable defenses here, going by some lower ownership ones, Cincinnati has Tennessee. I know Cincinnati's defense has been thrashed left and right at this, but they are in a situation. They win tonight versus the Cowboys. They pretty much got to win out. And Tennessee, with Will Levis dealing with injury, I don't like anybody else who comes in after that. It could be a situation where Cincinnati can end up taking another game out of Tennessee. That's definitely a one like there. What are your thoughts on Jacksonville or against the Jets, or Jets against the Jacksonville? Do you like either of those defenses?
Well, I like the Jets against Jacksonville. I don't necessarily like the Jaguars against the Jets. And although I've said this to you and Nick, it's really hard for me to have an opinion right now on the Jets because there's so much anger for this season that I can't think clearly. And so I'm like, on paper, I'm like, yeah, the Jets should absolutely just dismantle the Jaguars, right? But then like the ghosts of Mac Jones coming back and beating our ass are right there. From New England, and that can very well happen against this team. I mean, we can't stop anyone through the air. We penalize everyone. Our corners, both DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, even though he didn't play this last game, their defensive strategy is I'm going to grab and tug and hold and get caught every time doing it, and we can't tackle worth a damn. So. Tank Bigsby. Do you want me to keep going?
No, we're done. We're done. I'm going to move on to my.
I can go all day about how the Jets have been absolutely dog crap this year, and it's just a travesty because this is such a good team on paper, and they're so talented, and these guys just can't freaking go out there and do it. Like, I don't know what they're tackling. I don't know what they're teaching on tackling. Like,
I'm gonna mute your mic in 1 second.
I mean, I'm really fired up right now.
On
the plus side, Juan Soto's a Met. So
let's. All right, there's one more defense I want to talk about, but just to make the Jets pain sting a little bit more, I did see a funny fact out there, and I didn't fully fact check it, but I'm gonna throw it out there. There's only one team in the NFL that has not made the playoffs since the Nintendo DS was released.
Yeah,
it's the New York
it's New York
Jets.
Jets, yeah.
But I want to say that the Atlanta Falcons on Monday night, it's a Monday night doubleheader, but Atlanta Falcons on Monday night against the Raiders. If there's no Aiden O'Connell, I do like that as a matchup too, because they've got
Desmond Ritter revenge game.
Yeah.
Oh, love it.
But anyway, that's another one I do
Don't
like
do
here.
it, guys. As tempting as it is and how bad Atlanta has been on defense, don't do it.
No.
Just don't.
So that's it for the episode today. Thanks
Kobe
for tuning
Myers,
in.
Brock Bowers to the moon, baby.
Thanks for tuning in. We will be coming out with our starts and sits for playoff week 1 later this week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you get the alert when we drop that episode. And as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.